The first thing you learn in your village is that the sea does not care about anyone. It does not care if your mother has no rice left. It does not care if your little brother goes to sleep hungry. It does not care if your father comes home with empty hands and sits outside in silence because he cannot bear to look his family in the eyes. The sea gives and the sea takes, and for most of your childhood, you are taught to respect that. But nobody tells you what happens when the sea is no longer yours. You are born on the Somali coast in a place where life is measured by nets, engines, weather, and luck. Your father is a fisherman, like his father before him. He is not the kind of man who talks much, but when he does, his words stay with you. He teaches you how to watch the water, how to feel the wind before it changes, how to tell from the birds whether fish are moving below the surface. He tells you that a man survives by patience, that dignity matters, that honest work, even if it is hard, is the only thing that lets a person sleep peacefully at night. When you are a boy, you believe him completely. Back then, the village is poor, but it is still alive in a way that feels normal. Boats leave before sunrise. Women clean fish near the shore. Children run barefoot through the sand. Men return tired, sunburned, and smelling of salt, but they return with something. Maybe not much, but enough for a meal. Enough for tomorrow to feel possible. In the evenings, people sit outside their homes and talk while smoke rises from cooking fires. Nobody is rich, but the village still has rhythm, pride, and some small sense of order. Then that order starts disappearing. At first, it happens slowly. Your father begins coming home with smaller catches. Other fishermen say the same thing. Boats stay out longer and return with less. Men start blaming weather, currents, bad timing, anything that lets them avoid saying the real thing out loud. But sooner or later, everyone sees it. Massive foreign trawlers are moving through the waters off the coast, taking fish on a scale your village cannot even imagine. They are floating factories, huge and mechanical, dragging wealth out of the sea faster than small fishermen could ever compete with. After that, hunger stops being occasional and starts becoming routine. You watch. Your father changed during those years. Not all at once, slowly, quietly, the change begins in his face, then in his posture, then in the way he speaks less every month. A man who once returned from the sea with purpose now returns with emptier nets and heavier eyes. Your mother begins stretching meals thinner than should be possible. She gives the best portions to the younger children and says she already ate. Nobody believes her, but nobody says anything. There are some lies a family must accept because the truth is too humiliating. 1. Night. You wake before dawn and hear your mother crying behind the hut. She is trying to do it softly so the younger children do not hear. There is no rice left, no fish drying on the rope, no money expected the next day. And in that moment, before the sun has even touched the water, you understand something has changed forever. Hunger is no longer visiting your house. It has moved in. That is how boys in places like yours stop being boys. You do not turn into a pirate because you admire violence. You do not do it because you dream of crime. You do it because every clean road in front of you starts collapsing one by one. First the fish disappear, then the work disappears. Then dignity starts feeling like a word poor men use when they have nothing else left to offer. Around the village, new conversations begin. At first they are spoken carefully, almost defensively. Men talk about protecting Somali waters, about stopping foreign theft, about taking back what was stolen. Nobody says the word pirate in the beginning. The word would make the decision feel too honest. The first men who go out are still fishermen in their own minds. They chase illegal boats, they demand payment, they seize supplies. They come back with fuel, money, and stories. And when hungry, villages see results, morality starts bending very quickly. The first time someone asks you to join a run, he speaks as if he is inviting you to help with normal work. He says it is a small operation, a simple interception. Easy money, no blood. He says everybody is doing it now. You tell him you will think about it, but you already know you are going. That is the part people never understand about desperation. By the time a man looks like he is making a choice, The choice was often made by circumstances long before he arrived. That night, you lie awake listening to the wind and the distant water. Your father coughs in the dark. Your younger brother turns in his sleep. Your mother breathes lightly beside the wall. And you realize the worst part is not fear. It is knowing that if this works, your family will eat. If it fails, maybe you die. But if it works, something inside. You may change in a way that never changes back. You go anyway. The first run is small compared to what comes later. A modest vessel, lightly protected, not far from shore. Even then, your hands shake before you step into the skiff. The engine rattles. The water is gray. The older men say little, each carrying his own fear privately. When the target finally appears, your heart pounds so hard it feels like the others must hear it. But once the moment starts, there is no room left for thinking. Men shout, ropes fly. Someone slips. Someone curses. The crew gives up faster than expected. Fuel is taken. Cash is taken. Supplies are taken. No one dies. On the way back, the mood in the boat is different. The men are laughing too loudly, the way people laugh after surviving something they fully expected might kill them. You do not laugh. You stare at the money in your hand and feel a terrible mixture of relief and shame when you bring food home. That evening, your brother eats until he can barely keep his eyes open. Your mother cooks in silence. Your father says almost nothing. That silence cuts deeper than anger would have. He knows where the money came from. He knows. But the food is on the floor between you, and hunger has a way of making every moral judgment feel weaker than it sounded in theory. You tell yourself it is only once. It never is. Weeks turn into months. Small runs become bigger ones. Fishing men become armed crews. Local anger becomes organized business. More weapons appear, more money appears. New men arrive from inland, men who know nothing about the sea but understand profit very well. They fund operations, pay informants, and push for larger targets. The old story about defending the coast starts fading. Now it is about ransom, power, access, opportunity. The sea has become a marketplace again. Just not the kind your father taught you to respect. You rise in that world because you are steady, not loud, not reckless, steady. When others panic, you stay clear-headed. When someone wants to rush a target, you calculate the fuel, the distance, and the risk. When a man lies, you notice. When an engine sounds wrong, you hear it. Men begin looking at you before they move. They ask your opinion. They trust your timing. In a world built on fear and greed, calm starts to look like leadership. That is how you become captain. Not in one moment, not by ceremony, but by surviving long enough for other men to decide their lives feel safer when you are the one making the final call. By the time they call you captain. Your father is dead. He does not die in some dramatic storm. He dies slowly on land, worn down by years of loss and disappointment. At his burial, the old men speak of honesty, labor, and faith, and you stand there listening with a face of stone. Inside, you feel something colder. Not grief alone, rage. The kind of rage that has nowhere useful to go. So it hardens into ambition. You start planning bigger operations after that. The run that changes your life begins with information from a trusted source, a merchant vessel, large, lightly protected, moving through a corridor where naval response will not be immediate, a real ship, the kind that can bring in millions if taken successfully. Around you, men start talking too fast, already imagining the money, already spending it in their heads. You stay quiet. A captain cannot afford to fall in love with a prize before he has studied its dangers. That night, you walk alone to the shoreline. The moon is bright enough to turn the water silver. Somewhere beyond that dark horizon is the ship, a floating world of steel, cargo, engines, and strangers who have no idea that men from your village are about to risk everything for a chance to climb aboard. You think about turning away. But turning away to what? Empty nets? A starving house? Another year of watching your people shrink while the world passes by untouched? Moral choices are easiest for those who are not cornered. Before dawn, the beach is full of movement. Fuel drums, ladders, weapons, quiet voices. Nobody looks heroic. They look tense, tired, and serious. You move through them, checking lines and engines, speaking only when necessary. Calm matters more. Then speeches. Once the skiff pushes into open water, the village disappears behind you, and with it goes the last comforting illusion that ordinary life is still close by. Hours pass under a brutal sun. The boat pounds across the sea. Salt dries on your skin. The engine hums beneath you like a bad thought that never leaves. Men say very little. Fear makes silence heavy. Then the lookout spots the ship. At first it is only a mark on the horizon. Then it becomes shape, then steel. Then something so massive it almost feels impossible. The closer you get, the less it looks like a target and the more it looks like another country floating through your world. Containers stacked high, white upper decks. Crew moving above like tiny distant figures. Somewhere on board, alarms and protocols are waiting for you. Then the ship sees you, the horn blasts. Crew members start running. Water cannons fire over the side, crashing into the sea around your skiff. The vessel towers above you now like a wall. One man throws the ladder and misses. Another tries and slips. Time starts collapsing. The men look at you. So you grab the line and throw it. Yourself. It catches. Then you climb. This is the moment that divides ordinary men from the ones history will judge differently. Your hands burn. Water slams into your back. Below you, the skiff rises and falls violently. One wrong movement and you disappear into black water between hull and wave. But fear becomes pure effort. Hand over hand, breath by breath, you reach the rail, pull yourself over, and land on the deck of a ship that should have remained out of your reach forever. The others follow. The takeover is fast and ugly and full of movement. Doors forced open, crew gathered, passageways secured. Radios controlled. Men shouting in languages that do not need translation because fear makes everything clear enough. No one resists for long. Within minutes, the ship is yours, but taking a ship is easier than holding one. The days that follow teach you more about power than the assault itself. Under the sun, the deck becomes an oven. At night, the sea sounds endless. The crew stays frightened and exhausted, but your own men become the greater danger. One grows arrogant. Another becomes greedy before any money has arrived. Another starts imagining betrayal where none exists. You spend most of your energy managing your own side, because armed desperation is never stable for long. Negotiations begin through satellite phones and intermediaries. The voices on the other end are calm, distant, and annoyingly polished. They talk numbers while you stand in heat and salt with armed men and terrified sailors. The contrast is almost insulting. Somewhere far away, people in offices are discussing your operation like it is a file on a desk. For you, it is sweat, risk, and the possibility of sudden death every hour. Days stretch. Naval vessels appear in the distance. Helicopters circle sometimes. Rumors spread, rescue tonight, a drone overhead. A traitor in the crew, a separate deal being arranged? You learn quickly that a captain's real job is not removing fear. It is keeping fear from becoming chaos. And then the human details start wearing down the story. You once told yourself, one sailor keeps a family photo in his pocket. Another is old enough to remind you of your father. A younger one trembles every time armed footsteps approach. These are not abstract enemies anymore. They are workers, frightened men, caught in a machine bigger than themselves, just like you were. That realization does not stop the operation. It does not make you merciful, but it makes the whole thing feel less clean, less righteous, less easy to explain to yourself. When the ransom finally arrives, it comes under a bright, normal sky that feels almost offensive in its beauty. A helicopter appears above the sea. The package drops into the water with flotation gear. Your men drag it aboard, soaked and heavy. The bags are opened. Money becomes real. Some laugh, some stare. One almost cries. You feel relief but not triumph. The crew is released carefully. The ship is returned. Slowly, it disappears into the horizon, taking with it its frightened sailors, its steel corridors, and a version of yourself you suspect did not survive this job intact. Back on shore, your village welcomes you like a king. Children run beside the landing, men gather immediately. Women watch from a distance, searching faces before they trust what they are hearing. Soon food appears where there was hunger, roofs are repaired, debts are paid, new engines are bought. Money changes the village fast. Success always makes ugly things look more reasonable than they really are. That is the most dangerous part, because boys are watching. They see you leave poor and return powerful. They do not see the sleepless nights, the fear on the ladder, the moral rot that settles quietly into a man after enough justifications. They see results. And in places where survival matters more than philosophy, results become their own form of truth. Late that night, after the celebration fades, you walk alone to the water. The sea is there like it always was, dark and breathing and impossible to read. And standing on that shoreline, you finally understand what it really means to be a Somali pirate. Captain. It is not glory. It is not adventure. It is not the fantasy outsiders imagine when they hear the word pirate. It is hunger wearing the mask of power. It is leadership built out of fear, pressure, and compromise. It is feeding people with money that carries the weight of terror. It is becoming necessary to the same world that destroyed the man your father wanted you to be. It is winning enough that you can never fully go back, and losing enough inside yourself that no victory ever feels complete. And when the sun rises again over the Somali coast, the boats will still be there, the horizon will still be open. The sea will still look beautiful from a distance. And somewhere on that shore, another hungry young man will be staring at the water, telling himself he still has a choice.